Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Goedemorgen. And buongiorno, and all of to all of our European colleagues. Welcome to the main conference day for OpenStorage Summit 2012. We've got a fairly exciting set of content, which you would have seen as you came in. In the morning, we're going to hear from a number of industry luminaries about the open storage movement, about open source, and where this is taking us, and the economic underpinnings of where we're going. So for our first keynote this morning, aptly entitled, How Did We Get Here and Where to Next, is the CEO of Nexenta, Mr. Evan Powell.
Thank you. So, thank you. That was Bill Roth, our VP of Marketing, one of many additions to Nexenta over the last year. So what I'm going to try to do here is kind of talk about, well, what it says, right? How do we get here? Where are we headed? And I'm going to dive into a little bit of detail, a little bit about product, not a whole lot, but some. And we're going to try to make a little bit of news here. So there's quite a number of journalists here. So welcome, thank you. For all of you who aren't journalists, actually you sort of are journalists these days. So feel free to tweet about it, because it's really about us together. And the goal, as always when I give these chats, is to try to have a discussion. I'm jet lagged. I only speak English. I'm up here on stage. We can still try over the next sort of 45 minutes to try to have a discussion, try to get you guys' input about where we think the market is moving, where we think storage is moving. And as you'll see, the more we evolve this business, the more we evolve this, if you will, summit or show, the more it becomes actually about open infrastructure. So I'm gonna have at least a take on where I think some of open infrastructure is going as well. Then I'm going to hand off to folks like Randy Bias, who's here right there, actually. And again, we're going to try to give you a perspective on a better, open, faster, less expensive, more scalable way to actually make the world smarter. Because that, in the end of the day, IT is about information and about intelligence. A little bit about the event I'll share with you, a little bit about us, try to make some news, try to talk about the future. So how many of you guys were on the boat ride to Amsterdam? Okay. And how many of you came back on the boat? Okay, so the ratio is pretty high. So we may still have some attendees in Amsterdam somewhere, downtown. So that's me. I just mentioned Randy. I think Doug is on an airplane or about to be here, but he will speak. We may flip Simon and Doug around. I think the first thing I should probably say is, thank you to the organizers. I see Monica in the back. There's a whole lot of folks, both on our side and on the side of partners, who helped put this together. So if we could give them a quick round of applause, I'd appreciate it. How many of you have heard of enterprise class storage for everyone? Yeah, actually just for fun the other day, I looked at the Wayback Machine, or the Internet Archive. When did we start saying that what we were going to do is bring enterprise class storage for everyone? And it turns out it's February 2008, right? So this may be old hat for many of you, but there's some value in consistency. Our mission has been, is, will remain to try to bring openness to enterprise class storage. In our case, we base it upon the ZFS file system. And, storage is sort of still the last bastion of vendor lock-in based models. The leading legacy storage companies still, generally speaking, although one in particular keeps buying new companies, generally speaking, the core of their products were developed in the 90s. And the core of their business model is, let's get your data, or the world's data, let's put it on our system, then let's charge you whatever we can get away with for commodity hardware at monster markups. And you know, when I wake up in the morning, I'm pretty motivated by this mission because I think it's just wrong. At a fundamental level, it is wrong that 40% of enterprise IT spending is going to companies that are not innovating, that are locking you into legacy dated systems, and that are frankly exploiting their customers with this business model. So we're taking a very different approach. And back when we first put this mission on our website, I was convinced that customers wanted this kind of approach. But I think it's fair to say that it was an open question. People had tried with Linux to take on the legacy storage market, in part due to historical limitations in Linux file systems that hadn't really taken off. I think we can conclusively say today, yes, customers absolutely want a new approach to enterprise storage, and I'm going to share with you some numbers on this as well. So quick update on the company, and I'm going to show you some numbers here as I do the sort of the builds. But at the end of the day, it's all about people. The key metric for me over the last year for this company and how we've evolved the company is really number of people and quality of people. Everybody who joins Nexenta signs a pledge that says, in part, I understand my buyer's enterprise operations buyer. He or she risks the loss of their job if they lose access to the data. That's the world we live in, right? And even getting training ready for this show, we turned up a new cloud to do the training, etc. There were folks working literally round the clock. And so, when I stand up here and say, hey, we did it, I did it, etc. The reality is what happened is we became a good place to work. We got really good people on board. They really dove in. And without them, obviously, none of this would be possible at all. So very, very proud about the team. ITAA is our culture. We try to summarize it, but the T stands for transparency. So even though there are journalists in the room, I am going to be pretty transparent about the history and where we're headed. So this is a little bit of data, about where we're at. So we're in the year with 295 people, so that's employees, maybe 300, et cetera. We've grown 4x year on year. We've committed to growing 3x this year in terms of pure sales. What's that 500? Anyone know what the 500 is? It's $500 million. It's roughly what partners will sell this year of systems based on Nexenta Store. $500 million. 2+. That comes down to the news we're making today, which is that we have a second product that is now available called Nexenta Store, or it's called Nexenta VSA for View. So we're now a multi-product company, and we'll talk more about that. So I'm going to have a whole slide on what do I predict is going to come next year. And as you'll see, I'm going to review my predictions from last year, too, to keep myself honest. But here's a quick highlight. I mean, certainly partners will sell north of $1 billion worth of Nexenta Store-based systems, OpenStorage-based systems in 2013. So I've really made this point, but it takes a community, and any slide deck takes a bunch of logos, right? So lots of logos. 4,500 accounts at this point, a couple hundred partners. Some of them are here, and obviously none of this, gave thanks to Monica and the folks organizing this, none of this would be possible without these logos over here on the banner, right? So please do pay some attention to our partners who are here exhibiting. They've bought into, okay, maybe a little bit of marketing dollars, but more importantly, they've bought into how do you have a total solution with Nexenta Store embedded as part of that. So they put some thought, time, effort into making open storage a reality. So thank you to the partners. So this is a little bit of data presented quite graphically. So who buys open storage? Who has been buying this stuff? I thought you guys might be curious about that. So certainly we came out of Stanford. So the first user who was willing to pay us some money was CompSci at Stanford. And universities remain quite strong for us. R&D, Cisco, Juniper, folks like that are our customers. And there's probably, 100 of them that are some sort of technology development company. And that continues to be an area of strength. The biggest single piece of spend, if you look at historically, who's buying open storage-based systems, it's hosting companies, which we should obviously call cloud companies or whatever you want to call them. But guys whose job it is to sell IT as a service are about 30% of sales, roughly. VDI, so we're announcing Nexenta VSA for View today, but we've had VDI users for quite some time. So when you go to, if you're curious, go to Shakti's presentation on that product, or I have one slide on it. Keep in mind that what we did is we listened to customers, folks actually using us, and to VMware, using us for this use case and customized based on that. But VDI has been a significant use case, also a lot of hosted VDI over the years. Governments, the nice thing about governments, they can be a kind of a challenge to work with, but they at least have to comply with, hey, did we do an RFP, similar to many universities. So when you're competing with folks whose competitive weapon includes playing golf with a CIO, it's not surprising that governments are a good source of customers for us. So this is a bit of news. My last company I sold almost exclusively into big finance, right? Taking on Nexenta back in end of 2008, we really didn't take a hard run at finance. Quite frankly, 90% of our customers come to us as a free user or something like that. And we weren't seeing that much from finance. But that all changed over the last year. And today, this year, so far, finance is our biggest single vertical. And it's gone from sort of second, third tier use cases to we're running messaging for a company whose name I'm not supposed to name, but the largest mutual fund company in the US. So in a period of a couple years of selling, we've really gone from good product for initially second tier at Stanford, third tier even at Stanford, to running messaging for one of the world's biggest financial firms. And doing private cloud, of course, and doing second tier and third tier, et cetera. So the speed of that is, quite frankly, one of the things that keeps me up at night, that and obviously jet lag. But it's pretty astounding. And it's a high quality problem to have, but what we are faced with is, how do we do a world-class job for these kinds of customers with the highest expectations when we can only add 150, 200 people a year? So that's where we're at as a company. And then other remains really important. So one of our big challenges is the breadth of use cases, the breadth of types of customers. This is a key point to understand, and one reason why our partners are so important to us. You take our software as a partner, you put it on hardware. Is that it? Is that the value add? That's value add. But a lot of the value add is, and this particular vertical, manufacturing in Germany, better than we ever will, right? To pick one. Government users in the Netherlands. So that value add, understanding what do you need for your use case, really rely heavily on our partners. So here's the news piece, which, see, I already stole my own thunder, but Nexenta Store 3.1.3 is on the way. So there's quite a drumbeat of releases, as you might imagine, at Nexenta. This one, as you can imagine from the point release, is largely focused on fixing some issues out there. We did broaden Romley support as well. So we wouldn't be here without Intel, quite obviously, and the Romley support is pretty exciting for us, because Intel, you can decide I'm nuts or just another crazy American. But Intel is heavily invested in bringing openness to storage. If you think about their world and how they're trying to grow their business, their margins are less than some of the legacy hardware vendors, which is wrong. I mean, at a fundamental level, they're investing more in CapEx per year than our leading competitor makes every year. So how is it that we're in this state where Intel makes less money than a leading legacy storage vendor? So that's going to change, and I think Intel's obviously doubling down on the value of Romley for storage. And then I've got another slide on this as well, but stop by the Aristore booth out there, STEC booth, chat with them. What we're saying is STEC, working with us and our engineers, we've been able to deliver an all-flash, all-SSD appliance that is roughly twice, maybe 2.5 times, one of the leading all-flash appliances out in the market for roughly half the cost. So 2.5 times the performance, and I've got some more details on that. Sustained IOPS of about 250,000 in one box at about half the price. And so, so part of this is just saying, hey, guys, did you know that, there's vendors out there being bought because they do SSDs, whereas we have, 2,000 SSD-based deployments today. So part of this is just trying to make sure that especially the journalists in the room understand that open storage and SSDs go hand in glove together. But part of it is there's a real use case here, right? If you're looking at random IOPS in particular, it's very hard to get the kind of performance you need without the use of SSDs. So what we did is engineered with partners a total system that gives you, we believe, the best all-flash, all-SSD appliance on the market today. Why is it the best? Okay, price performance I mentioned. But it's also, think about it, this is unified storage on top. So you've got the ability to do, NFS, iSCSI, et cetera, from an all SSD box. That's just not the case. Most of these all SSD boxes out there are block only. Secondly, again, it's Nexenta Store on top. So you've got the ability to manage the all SSD pool, plus the hybrid pool, plus some inexpensive, deep SAS disks, all together, one box. Nobody else has that. And again, no vendor lock-in. More data on this, and I think we're going to be talking about this in the sessions as well. So a little bit about what did I tell you last year was coming. So I had a big slide saying, hey, it's not just about disruption anymore. Yet Nexenta, even then, was setting records for growth. And what I said is we're going to double down on innovation, and hopefully you're seeing that with Nexenta VSA for View and some other capabilities. Yeah, I think we all know this. We're growing. So, this is a little self-serving. I'm showing you all the predictions I made that came true. But the other way of looking at it is what I tell you in a minute that we're going to do next year, we really are going to try our darndest to do. So we're trying to be pretty transparent about where we're taking things. In terms of the cloud, I've got one slide on it, but I'll give you one more data point. Last year, around this time, we were saying, geez, OpenStack is really, really cool to be open about it. And we saw them coming together, and I think today, really OpenStack, in terms of an open source community, is the second most funded open source community in the world after the Linux Foundation. So they've gone from nothing to a pretty significant open source player very, very, very quickly. And so again, about a year ago, that's where our analysis was. That looks pretty cool. And of course, we have users. I think Randy may mention Korea Telecom and others who have some OpenStack, at least around their deployments. Today, one of our developers is the 5th biggest developer for OpenStack Swift. So we've kind of gone from looks cool to, hey, we've got, 100 and something engineers. Let's start actually pulling forward some aspects of the OpenStack community. So some of the things we did in the last year quickly, namespace cluster. This is basically saying ZFS is great, but it really works on a couple heads. And we have customers who want 1,000 heads. So how do you do that? How do you provide ease of use? We launched this in the last year. And what it gives you is a global namespace for NFS. Nexenta VSA for View, I've mentioned several times, so I won't go into it in any great depth other than to say this takes Nexenta Store, runs it as a VM, and then a lot of the value, of course, is cost savings, but quite a bit of the value is time savings as well. So you're talking about taking, 100 steps and boiling them down to 4, right? This is more your classic software value prop, which is to say, we're going to save your IT guys a lot of time. We're going to make the desktop environment much better. We're going to get you up and running on a virtual desktop environment, in this case for VMware, massively faster than you could do it yourself. So you can imagine why VMware likes this, right? I mean, they and Citrix certainly are constrained in this market as much by people as anything else. They don't have enough engineers to get their systems up, tuned, operating to meet the demand. So this really addresses that pain point. Makes it easy and automatic. We also were motivated to add to Nexenta Store an open capability to get to whatever cloud you want in terms of storage backup. So, we did add this. And actually, I believe we've decided that anybody who's here, we'll give you this upgrade plugin optional module for free. So it's a way of saying thank you. And what it really does is it uses the power of our replication to get you out to the cloud, get your data out to the cloud, but then also the power of that replication and snapshotting, again, to get the data back. So it's this, the idea is to have the same ease of use in terms of snapshotting and other capabilities as our core product. However, the back end may not be a JBot, it may be Amazon. So we also launched that in the last year. But this is part of being transparent. I mean, what did we focus on? What do we focus on today? It's back to the pledge. That's Apple's fault. So total product quality has been our focus. Actually, new facilities, having a fully built out big data center in Silicon Valley is helping. Reference architectures. So the all SSD solution I talked about is an example of a reference architecture. We have several others where we've worked with, let's say, Supermicro to pre-design a total solution. So if you think about OpenStorage, the perceived Achilles heel is software, hardware not tightly bundled. And what we're saying is, right, but what we're doing is working with the hardware vendors all the way upstream to make sure that when their products are released, we know exactly how the whole thing is going to work. So we're investing more and more in reference architectures. Solutions are a little bit different, and you can get those on our site as well. Actually, reference architectures are available only to partners. Solutions are out there on the .com site. And what that gives you is really exactly how should I configure VMware and Nexenta Store together to get a good, vCloud, which incidentally we used vCloud to run our training on. So just as an example. Better partner training. Anyone attend training in the last couple days? Yeah, it's okay. You gave the training, you can raise your. So the reviews have been quite good. I think some of the trainers would say, we need to continue to improve here, but hands-on training delivered from a cloud back end here, and it's working. New partner programs. Platinum support. We didn't have platinum support. What it basically means is we're saying we're not going to be as good as the legacy vendors in support. We're going to be better. Now, platinum sort of implies that we may charge you more for that super high level of SLAs. But that has really helped quite a bit. Yeah. We launched at VMworld a level of instrumentation that we think nobody in storage has. Well, nobody in storage has it for sure. And what it is leveraging what's called dtrace, for those of you guys who know. to get you down to the per VM level on performance. Now, it is not GA'd. We're only doing it for certain large cloud deployments today, but it will be making its way into the product. Constant focus on usability. At least doubled QA investment. And again, the most important thing is the people. It's all about getting great people on board, aligned around a very simple mission: bring openness to storage. And that's really why we've gotten here. So what the heck is 7x to 18x? Anyone? I bet there's only about 5 people on my team who know what I'm talking about here. So on average, what we found is that a customer that starts with OpenStorage will actually increase their deployment size by 7x historically. And for the top 20% of customers, it's 18x. So I put those numbers up against anyone, right? So what that says is, even though we don't lock you in, even though you can fire us at any time, even though you could use open source to manage your storage without having to replicate, away from us, still, people are buying more. That's probably the stat that I'm proudest about. And it really explains, how do you grow 4x with relatively small funding? Well, you get customers on board, you make them happy, you sell them more. But that was last year. Let me talk about the next 12 months. And I'm going to do very quickly, some trends and observations. But, an obvious point is that Moore's Law is continuing at some level. But what people often don't look at is a file system takes about 7 years to mature. So it's sort of the confluence of these two things that explains why we're the fastest growing enterprise storage company ever. Right? We pass along the benefits of Moore's Law to customers. We use a file system that's already mature. We're not some startup saying, hey, we're smart guys, let's write a new file system. Enterprises won't trust you for minimum 7 years, when you have a new file system. We've taken one that Sun put about $150 million into, and we've made it something you'd want to run your business on. Bandwidth, yep. So this was a Bill Roth joke, but if any, yeah. We do have some users at CERN, so anyway, storage is home for the data. With all due respect, everybody higher in the stack, you have a passing acquaintance with the data. It lives in our product. And that's a fundamental, absolutely fundamental point. Having a cooler, better, neater storage solution, I'm all for it. I think we're doing it. But at the end of the day, it's about keeping the data safe forever. We have customers who are literally wrestling with, let's see, I have to declassify this in 25 years. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? How are you going to keep data safe for 25 years without a file system that finds and corrects silent data corruption? You're not. And maybe some of these customers, they want to make it impossible to declassify their data. So it's not always the best pitch to them. But in any case, those questions are being asked. And as I've said, storage is too big, too expensive, too proprietary. And in some of these customers, they're actually now spending about half of their IT spend. We're talking, DIA, CIA, NSA type folks on storage today. So again, some of you may think, well, shoot, I wish they were spending even more. It slows them down. But it really just shows at the large scale how expensive and problematic storage is. And then thank you, VMware, for so many reasons. But one big reason is all of these cool optimizations we had at the application layer to get the storage to work well are totally out the window now. You put your app on VMware, and those are out the window. So you need something like SSDs and Nexenta Store to handle the random I/O. So this is where I'm setting up Randy for hopefully a good debate later on. But NAS is dead, long live NAS. This is some data from Forrester, in fact, on what were people using to manage their VMware environments a few years ago. What are they using now? So actually we think of NAS, oh, everybody's got NAS. It certainly seems like it, but it's just simply not the case, in fact. So this 100 gig Ethernet, or the 10 gig Ethernet, that stuff is making network attached storage much more viable. And we see NFS, in fact, winning significant share in the virtualization space. One more on that. So if you kind of split the growth rates, I mean, the data is the data. I mean, the reality is big, scale out, right optimized pools of data that may not have performance requirements in general is booming, but so is standard unstructured data. We've got a GIS user who the other day said, well, maybe 3-4 months ago, in one of our meetings with them, said, yeah, we think this will be an exabyte deployment, right? Exabytes. So there is still a booming area in that unstructured data, which requires, generally speaking, shared access, something like a NAS. So, you guys ready for my last joke? Or I think it's my last. The elephant in the room is the elephant. So somebody laughed. That's good. So that's good. Our basic pitch is, look, I mean, you can run Hadoop on top of Nexenta Store today. We've got users doing this. You can get good performance today doing this. And we think, data integrity and using our capabilities to keep the data safe locally through something like a local file system approach is a very good idea. Now with Hadoop, you do have the ability to move your data around. So if this node is gone, that's okay. I'll move the data from this node to the other node. And so it's pretty trivial to show that with the right number of outages, your network becomes consumed with moving data around. I don't think let's use the backplane to keep the data safe when possible, as opposed to Ethernet. So Hadoop and Nexenta Store play well together. How's that for a detailed slide? Pretty darn high level. We have noticed that bringing, on the other hand, compute to the storage is a good idea. We will have a productization along those lines. Some people are doing this already over the next 12 months. Any questions about the roadmap? We're going into more detail on it. There's a whole session on this, but what I would call out is we're continuing to move along with Nexenta Store itself, but we're also doing things like the OpenStack adapter. We're one of 2 storage companies that have a driver in the Essex release of Nova, which now I'm throwing around a lot of terms, but basically Nova is the cloud compute piece of OpenStack. So I believe it's one of 2. It's us and NetApp, basically. And then you can see some of the other things that we're working on as well. We are going to be coming out with a solution so we have a global namespace that allows you to handle, literally 1,000 nodes, and that's great. Good luck managing all those nodes with our current management framework. Quite frankly, it's a challenge. Okay. So what we've decided to do is fundamentally refactor the management for these massive scale-out environments, and that's what you're going to hear about NEF here today. That's what it's about. So where does OpenStorage go now? Well, if you're a customer, congratulations. Your average price you're going to be spending in a year will be about 70% less. If you look at enterprise storage on average, they're dropping prices about 35%. You can look at, there's a CS First Boston report on that. So you're going to enjoy the benefits of flexible pricing, lack of lock-in. You will see us launching an object scale-out solution. I talked about Hadoop. We're going to keep growing. Globally local is a big deal. What does it mean? It means that this week, everybody that works directly for me is here. The world isn't flat. It was a nice way to sell books, but it's wrong. Fundamentally, the way that we do this together is we get to know each other. We spend time in a room together. Telepresence is pretty cool. Not as cool as Amsterdam, though, over a beer. and getting to know each other. So HR, finance, obviously sales, marketing, support. We're all here this week because those relationships that we're making with our partners and end users are how we win. The other, I would say, is China. So we believe we can be the top storage provider in China within 5 years. And we're going to be making some announcements about that over the next, certainly 6 months, probably 3 months. I predict, let's see if I'm right, next year, that we'll have a single, at least one exabyte deployment. We're going to continue to improve. We're going to accelerate our innovation as well. So if you have to remember two things about this discussion, other than my jokes, of course, which were wonderful. I mean, come on. The elephant in the room is the elephant? Come on. Open storage is fundamental to much happening, and I don't know that that's fully appreciated, but if you don't fix, well, the elephant in the room, the 40% of spend going to storage, and the fact that legacy storage is too slow, too proprietary, can't scale in most cases, then you really can't do stuff that makes the world smarter. So IT does matter. If it matters to you, then you really need to be looking at, hey, how am I going to open up storage so that I'm not locked in, so that I can benefit from 70% on average price decline. So Moore's Law benefits me instead of my vendor. So I mentioned this for China. I think we can be the #1 storage vendor, at least as we rank it, in terms of deployments and impact within 5 years. So, we've come a long, long, long way, right? It was 3 of us not that long ago, early 2008. And here we are, 225, 230 some odd people today. We'll be 300 end of the year. And the message is we're not stopping. In fact, with every piece of additional resource we gain, with every new partner, we're doubling down, right? Because this mission, we're about as far from actually executing on this mission as we were the day we started. Storage market is enormous. The issue remains, and we're fundamentally building a company that we believe can form a platform, serve as a platform for a more open approach to IT in the years to come. So I'd ask you to stay in touch. Unfortunately, I've gone through most of my time, so I don't know about, I'll do some questions. But I'm here all day. We are going to do an Open Storage Summit in San Jose, of course. Just to give you an idea, when we did our first Open Storage get together, it was I think a dozen people or something. We're expecting over 1,000 for this one. There's 4 or 5 events today where open storage is being discussed, presented. VMUGs I think in Indiana or something. A couple of them in the U.S. There's the BRI Forum over here in London, which is a big VDI. Keep track of these events. Stop by and say hi. Give us a hard time. That's why we're doing these events with our partners. And feel free to email me or Skype me. And those of you who know me know I'm I'm still an email guy. I'm old, right? So you can also Facebook me or try to find me on Tumblr. I'm not on Tumblr, but you can try to find me. But anyway, so. We're at about the time I'm supposed to hand over, but I've actually been speaking for about 37 minutes. So I'd take 5 or so minutes for questions if folks have them. Other than why is it so hot in here? Yes.
Silicon Media in France, Paris. How do you see the evolution of your business model over the last 2 years and let's say till 5 coming years, because you have a lot of hopes. How do you see the ecosystem evolving with you? I want to mention, you mentioned VMware yesterday, VMware Forum in Paris. They said for $1, VMware is investing. The ecosystem is getting $15.
Right.
Do you see something like that?
Yes. This is where it's actually a little bit tricky for us to project total partner sales. So we usually use 10x, because that's what we believe is happening. So for every dollar that Nexenta Store is bringing in, we think partners are bringing in roughly 10. It might be a little bigger. I mean, at a Korea Telecom or somewhere like that, you can imagine, right? When you have something like 100 petabytes, we have a fixed fee, if you will, and then the hardware guys keep selling more. I mean, every disk drive, somebody pays for it. So, but no, it's a good question. In terms of business model, we expect essentially no changes. So what I mean by that is we're a software company. We're a software company. We rely on partners. We will, continue to evolve things like we launch Platinum support or whatever, but less of a change in the business model, more of just an evolution in offerings. Good questions.
Barry Griffiths from NAS in the UK. The only question I have for you is, do you see the future of Nexenta scaring the big guys so much that someone comes in with a big checkbook?
Yeah, who's to say they haven't tried, right? I can be transparent, but not that transparent. No, sure, but even if you look at the way we put money, I mean, thanks for coming, first off, good question. Even if you look at the way we funded the company, and the common shareholders own more than half. I'm pretty open about that. Why is that important? Well, because we have the votes at some level. I mean, so we believe in the long-term mission of the company, and we intend to build the company for the long term. I'd say that. And then if you look at the investors, we had a slide on here, but I took it out. But just FYI, we did take additional capital in the last year, and there are funds that I think one of the funds. I met the founder the other day. He started in 1975, right? It's an 11th fund. Menlo Ventures is the fund. So, these guys don't need a quick hit, right? They're doing fine. So we have patient investors, and we're trying to build a long-term company. Having said that, I don't know about selling to we've got to be realistic. I mean, it is capitalism. So could something happen? Something could happen, but there's certainly a huge amount of interest in the company today, and we're very careful. I don't know if Jim's right there. Like when we're in business development meetings with potential acquirers, we actually try to make sure they don't have corporate development in the room, right? We're at that level where we don't want them getting all, focused on us because, I'd rather not leave somebody at the altar, if you will, right? So we don't even want them engaging at that level. So no, the plan today is to try to, hit the IPO markets and when they're available in a couple of years, unless Facebook has destroyed the IPO market forever. But good question.
I'm sorry. So the big vendors out there have bought some scale-out file systems in the last few years, saying iBricks, Exanet, Isilon. How big of a threat are they to you now that the biggest vendors have those file systems?
So trying to think of how to answer this without slamming competitors, which you never do. I would say that we compete with them in many environments. We sell to companies that in some cases are owned by some of those companies that have bought some of those companies, and we beat them. So why? It's largely in my opinion, it's largely SSDs and ZFS and the ability to just crush IOs, right? So look at the all SSD appliance out there. Try to get that kind of random IO with small block size on, you just named them, on any of those. You just can't get there. So the particular use case. Now people like scale out. That's why we added it. From an ease of use perspective, and it's kind of hard to argue with. But from hey, I got to hit my I/O requirements in my private cloud. Good luck doing that with some of those guys. In fact, we had there are signs that some of them are buying other companies to address that use case now, right? And they're recognizing that they don't have a solution that can actually address the random I/O requirements of today's cloud and compute cloud infrastructures. But good question. Well, hopefully this was useful to you guys. Again, I'll follow up and hold myself accountable to these projections. We'll see how we're doing. And thank you all for coming. If I had, again, one final point, it's that this is a classic case of, I mean, okay, it's David and Goliath, but we're actually not, however big we are, collectively, this group, Intel, et cetera, is huge. The reason why storage is transitioning is in part because those that want to make the world smarter and bring a more progressive, dynamic IT industry to the fore want it to happen. We're just a part of that. So, you know, thank you. Please do tweet about it. Please do stay in touch. And yeah, thanks a lot.